How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Cody Mack, and welcome to the very first episode of the Mac Attack podcast. I've actually already recorded this introductory solo episode, and I didn't hate how it came out, but I didn't love it, and I want to do it again. I got much less notes. I want it to be much more off the top of the dome. There was just too many notes last time. I was like reading bullet point by bullet point, and that was all I talked about. I didn't really give myself a lot of freedom. I don't want that to be how this podcast goes. I want it to be very free-flowing, very fluid, liquid, like water. But anyways, like I said, this episode is obviously a solo one, but I plan to I want to have a guest as often as possible. If I can do a guest every single episode, that's what it's going to be. If I can't do a guest, I'll jump on here and just speak my mind a little bit, but I'm probably going to do a little bit of that, on this YouTube channel as well as my Instagram and my TikTok anyways. But yeah, welcome to the Mac Attack podcast, where we talk about pretty much anything and everything. It could get deep. We could talk about some serious things that we're thinking about that's on our mind, or we can be simple and talk about, celebrity gossip. Who knows? I'm not much for gossip. I'm not much for celebrity gossip, but sometimes there are really wacky things that happen in the world that deserve some laughs and attention. And I'm just going to be myself above all else. Whatever I feel like talking about, I'm going to talk about it. I'm not out here trying to make the next best podcast where you could come for all of the biggest tech news or all of the biggest philosophy. No, I mean, you might get a little bit of all of it, and what I can guarantee you is you're going to get the most of me. You're going to get all of me. I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to be Cody Mack, and this is the Mac Attack. Cue the theme music. No, I don't got no theme music. Not yet. Who knows? Who knows what comes in the future? But yeah, last time I recorded this, I put a whole lot of introduction into it. Like, I really introduced myself, talked about myself, talked a little bit about how I've been through so much and I've grown and all of that crap. I don't want to do as much of that this time. I kind of just want to share my experiences and let that speak for itself, instead of kind of trying to make this big, like, PowerPoint. Not even a PowerPoint, but it was too, I was trying to make it too much of an introduction. I don't want it to be an introduction. I'm just going to give you my experience in these things. And I'm going to start off by talking about my experience spending most of my life on YouTube. I am 28 years old. I started doing YouTube. I don't even know how young I was when I made my first YouTube video. I was probably 12, though. Just to go off the top of my head, when I was, I was riding scooters. That was the beginning of my YouTube journey. I was always at the skate park. I was a total skate park kid. And, I was making scooter videos like crazy. And I was 12, I think, when I started riding scooters. And it wasn't a very long time until I started making videos. So I'm going to say I was 12. And that means I've been doing YouTube for around 15 years. Which means over half of my life. So I've spent most of my life making YouTube videos. And man, those skate park days were definitely some of the best days of my life. I spent pretty much all of high school. I'd get out of school, I'd go home. My mom would pick me up. I'd go home. I'd drop my stuff off, and I'd jump on my scooter, and I'd ride to the skate park. I didn't live very far. I was very, very fortunate in that regard. So I spent most of high school, I would say, until maybe like late junior year, just going to the skate park every single day, meeting up with my buddies, total scooter gang. I'd always bring a camera, and I'd just film whoever and whenever, and we'd make these little cliques, these little scooter teams, where none of us were really good enough to be on a team, but that's why we made our own team. And we just go make these videos, and it was so much fun, dude. It's such a positive part of my childhood that I will always cherish. I'm so glad I was getting outside and experiencing real life. I wasn't just sitting at home. I still played a lot of video games in my childhood, but they never took precedence to getting out there to the skate park, and living that side of life. And when the skate park days kind of faded off and most of my skate park friends went their separate ways, I was still riding into my senior year of high school, and it was just with a smaller group. We wouldn't really go to the skate park. Instead, we'd always meet up and somebody would drive. I was the first one with my license, so usually I would drive us to some spot, and we'd do street. We'd ride street, as we called it, which is where you're not at a skate park, you're not riding ramps. You're jumping down stair sets, and you're doing these like kind of urban, weird spots that you're creatively repurposing into a skate spot, into a scooter riding spot, you know? And that was my thing in senior year, but we all kind of phased out of that, you know, into our own directions. Some of us went off to be musicians. I got two of my friends from that group are still very close to each other. And I think they're in a band together to this day. And that was like, I graduated. It'll be 11 years this year, you know, 2026. So, you know, 11 years later, those guys are still very close friends making music together. And that's kind of what they transitioned to from the skate park days. Another friend from that group, I don't know what he's up to these days. Me and him, I considered him my best friend. And then I did kind of, I kind of grew distant from him because admittedly, I started partying. I was drinking. I was experimenting with alcohol for the first time in my life. And I had other buddies that were doing that more often, and I started hanging out with those old friends more, and we were partying and bonding in different ways that, you know, it made sense for my senior year of high school what I was starting to do. Um, but that friend didn't take it too well, and we never really rekindled that friendship. And I don't know what he's up to these days. I haven't really talked to him since then. I could probably reach out and try to rekindle that, but at the same time, I don't know if either of us feel a need for that. We were high school buddies, and at this point, we have 11 years of not talking between us, and I just wish him the best, you know? But what ended up happening with me in all of that was I transitioned into being a gaming YouTuber, and that really was the main thing of my life for a long time. I had a lot of other stuff going on. I had a social life, but I'll be honest with you, these weren't the healthiest days of my social life. I would say I was probably around the most unhealthy company, the most not meant for me company. And the memories of this period of my life come back to being a YouTuber, being a YouTube gamer. And I don't really think about, you know, even though I have friendships that I thought were going to be lifelong friendships, but didn't really end up being that way. Just honestly, realistically, I look at those and I'm like, man, I didn't really, you know, none of the friendships I built in that time. Sure, if we crossed paths, I'm sure it'd be a very positive reunion. You know, and I'm always gonna have love for certain people from that period in my life. You know, there's a reason I stuck around as long. I had a strong bond with certain people that just we ended up doing things differently than I think we ever imagined we would back in the earlier skate park days. And you know, we definitely grew apart over time. And you know, I really think of the YouTube time from those days, and that kind of enters like the chapter 2 of my time on YouTube, which is also the longest chapter, being a YouTube gamer. But to talk a little bit more about my social life at that time, you know, really, there was friends I thought that when I had kids and when they had kids, like we would be calling each other uncle. You know, that would be what our kids would know us as, is like, oh, that's uncle, you know, that's uncle this, that's uncle that, whatever. And that definitely didn't turn out to be the case. Is this always set as that? I think that's just for that. I don't think. Okay, sorry. I saw something tech wise and it caught my attention. I got to learn how to not do that, not get distracted. It is set as it's going to be set. There's nothing I could do to change it, and it's fine. And I could change it, but there's no reason to change it. It's going to be a consistent episode quality wise. As I was saying though, you know, but it's kind of, you know, it's one of those tough lessons where even you could believe for years of your life that yeah, this dude's going to be the uncle to my children one day. And then you realize when you have different friends that are much more in your energy and they hit you up and say, "Hey, meet your nephew." Like it's just you come to realize that people do grow and you might be really close to someone at a time, But once you get to like kind of your adult years where you're more established, you got yourself a little more figured out, that's where your lifelong friendships will solidify. Even if you've been friends since you were 13 years old, um, once you're like 25 to 30, those are probably going to be the years where those friendships really like you'll see like, oh, this is an actual lifelong friendship because life is a lot longer than childhood and life changes so much and people change and they go their separate ways and it's fine. But it's just one of those things. You grow apart from people and it's a one of those learning lessons. Like, yeah, sometimes the guy you thought was going to be the uncle to your kids isn't. And you get to a point where you realize, yeah, me and him aren't close like that anymore. And I wouldn't. If I had kids, it'd be like, oh, yeah, you want to, if we cross paths, oh, dude, you should meet my family. But you're not going to introduce the family as like, oh, hey, this is uncle. Because it ain't like that anymore. And I'm not going to tell my kids somebody's their uncle if they're not going to be around, you know? Um, and that's another thing, is my kids are gonna, my family, I'm gonna make sure they know they have an obligation to be in my children's life. Um, because that's the thing. I want my kids to have strong family values. And I don't want my kids to meet my older sister and be like, "Oh yeah, this is Auntie Ashley." And then, say me and my sister just don't spend enough time together into adulthood when we got our own things going on. It's like, no, 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 no. You gotta, we gotta at least FaceTime. And, these kids gotta know that they have more family than in this house. And I want to have those values. I want my kids to be close with their cousins if they ever have cousins. Come on, family, start freaking pumping out some. I'm one to talk. I haven't been pumping out kids either. But yeah. Anyways, back to talking about the YouTube stuff. So in this time, when I grew out of the skate park, I grew into being more of a YouTube gamer. I was already doing YouTube gaming stuff at the time. I was kind of doing both. And at that time, it's like, I just kind of leaned more into the YouTube gaming stuff and ever so naturally, it became what I was filling all of my free time with. I was just grinding it out. I was having so much fun and I was playing a bunch of different games early on. And then it kind of transitioned to I was a Pokemon specific guy, and then I was a Minecraft specific guy, and then I went back to Pokemon, and then I went back to Minecraft, and then I locked in on Pokemon. And there was a lot of breaks in between where I had like quit and then came back. And it was just yesterday, actually, last night, that I uploaded the video saying I'm done. I'm done doing gaming content. And I decided that months ago. I just haven't made the video yet. I haven't like fully processed and been ready to approach this next chapter that I'm doing right here, right now with this podcast. That, it all came at once where I was like, all right, I'm going to record this video saying I'm done with the gaming stuff. And then I'm going to start working on this podcast and just when I feel like it, making content towards this. And I do have a weekly goal with the podcast. I want to put it up once a weekend, but I'm not gonna hold any pressure against myself for that. Life gets busy, life gets crazy, and sometimes I'm not gonna have time or energy or focus to be able to hit that goal. And that is what it is. I'm just gonna make content when I want to, when I can, and I'm gonna have a great time. And that's really all there is to it. Going into this new chapter, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk more about that gaming chapter. But yeah, I did a bunch of back and forth, and then Pokemon is really what I stuck with the longest. There came a certain point after all of that I already described, doing a bunch of different games and then just Pokemon. To be honest with you, those days were the most cherished days of my days as a YouTube gamer because there was so much innocence and bliss to it, not having the intention at all whatsoever of making money off of it. And then a point came where, I had gotten to a point on YouTube where I could make a little smidgen of earnings. And then my mindset started to ever so shift. And then I started streaming. And in streaming, I don't know if I really started streaming on YouTube. I did Twitch for a little bit, but YouTube is where streaming stuck with me. And I don't know if I ever started streaming with the intention of, oh, I could get donations. I could get more earnings on streams. I think I just started streaming because shiny hunting sounded fun. It was something new and fresh for me. So I started shiny hunting in Pokemon games, which is where you pretty much spend hours running into the same Pokemon, waiting for it to be a different color. Um, and I started doing that, and it didn't take very long for shiny hunting to actually kind of blow up a little bit on my channel. It got me to my most successful point on YouTube ever. I acquired, I think, over the course of just shiny hunting, 3,000 subscribers, and I was getting like 20 to 30 viewers average for my entire 4 to 8 hour stream, however long I was going. And it was a great feeling. It was a great feeling of success. Like I was making it on, with my greatest hobby, with my greatest passion. It was leading to something bigger, and people were donating from time to time just to support me. And it came to a point where, I didn't have many bills, but I had a little bit of bills, and I quit my job to pursue YouTube more seriously. And, I even dropped out of school shortly after just because I was like, YouTube's the thing. I became obsessed because I got a little bit of money. I was making a few $100 a month, and I was able to pay my car payment. Basically, was the only bill I had living with my parents was my car payment. It was only $150 a month. I had a tiny car payment, and YouTube was paying it. And I was like, "Oh, dude, this is crazy. This is insane. This is all I got to do." And I was just thinking like this could grow, it'll go from just paying my car payment into I could get more bills. I'll have more spending money. I totally got obsessed, and I was selling myself on the idea that I couldn't fail. And I kept streaming. Things didn't necessarily keep going upward. I had kind of peaked for what was going to happen in that time for me on YouTube. And there was a few big moments with raids from big Pokemon YouTubers that really pumped my channel up. And it just came to a point where donations weren't coming in as frequently, because when you have like two or three people kind of funding that money I was getting, I was talking about, when you got like two or three people just dropping a ton of money, making those earnings possible, they might get into a point in life where they can't spend that much money, where they have to be more conscious of their money. And the first thing to go should be donating to streamers online who don't even live in the same, you don't know them, like they don't know me. So, um, you know, all the while in this time of life, I was going through some of the hardest times in my personal life once like streaming was getting really successful. So I'm living in this weird back and forth limbo where my YouTube career is like booming, and I'm starting to have to cope with the fact that it's not staying on an upward trajectory. But in my personal life, I am having trouble with a medication I'm on called Adderall. Adderall did a lot of damage to me, and I think I'm still struggling with some of that damage. To be completely honest with you, I haven't taken the stuff in um, over 8 years. I haven't taken the stuff, and I only took it for half a year. So half a year did like 8 years later, I still got habits and thought patterns that I got to break through, because I kind of developed them in a really bad mental place, fueled by this pharmaceutical thing I was taking that I knew was an issue, but I didn't want to admit, because it did something for me early on, and I was chasing that. It made me feel good early on. So I kept chasing that, even though I knew that I was incredibly emotionally imbalanced and like, just going through this very rough depression and bad mental habits and tendencies, because this thing was just sucking my serotonin dry. It was doing terrible things to me. So I'm going from that to like the peak of my YouTube life. All I ever wanted, it felt like at the time, because once YouTube became something I could make money from, it like changed my entire perspective on it. And it was for the worse that I realized that now, where I was like, dude, this is the dream. This is my dream. And then I started quitting a job. I quit school. I went so deep into it with this obsession, and it wasn't going on the trajectory I wanted it to be going on. And I didn't have that Mr. Beast mind, like, I'll do whatever it takes to get these views up. What can I do? How do I study what people are watching? Like, Mr. Beast was a genius with his obsession. Me, I was obsessed with doing it a certain way, and I just kept going harder and harder doing it that certain way, knowing that I was a great like I could talk. I could talk into a microphone for hours, and I'm doing great. People are entertained. People like listening to me talk. I'm a good speaker, you know? I'm an engaging speaker, and I understood that. But you need more than just that to make gaming content. And at the time, to be honest with you, you kind of didn't. At the time I was starting this, that's all you needed to do was be an engaging speaker and make Let's Plays, and you could make it. And I was upset and I was bitter because I was watching channels that started around the same time as I did, absolutely popping off. Shady Penguin started about, sorry, you don't know who that is. This is a podcast, not a Pokemon channel anymore. Shady Penguin is a pretty big time Pokemon YouTuber, and he has literally, it's been his career. He's got like 3 kids now, and all he has done for money has been like either making YouTube content, doing partnerships, doing other opportunities that he's gotten through being a YouTube creator. And now he works with this up and coming company called Alestrals that is another Pokemon YouTuber founded company that it's its own card game, it's its own video game, up and coming video game, and it's like kind of a Pokemon competitor, you know, made by a Pokemon fan. And now Shady Penguin works as a part of that. But Shady started his channel actually a little bit after I started my gaming channel, but he had a lot more intention and a lot more direction and like his channel was branded a lot earlier than mine when I was just some kid making random video game content. He was making focused video game content. Like he had a goal with what he was making, and he's kept it on point, and people knew what they were coming for, and they kept getting that for a very long time. Anyways, his channel blew up, mine didn't, and I was bitter over it, and I just kept trying to convince myself, well, I can make it, dude. He's did it. This guy did it. All these other guys did it. I could do it. And I didn't end up making it. And eventually, all that momentum died off. And this was like the beginning of the rough times of being a gaming creator. Because I came back and I quit numerous times. I'm not even going to go into extreme detail. But from then on, and this was like in 2018 that I quit when things were slowing down. I was getting overwhelmed with life. And I was like, I got to figure something else out, guys. I got to go get a job. And I went and got a job. And then for a little bit there, I went and I worked these here and there super random jobs. I worked at Rite Aid for 2 weeks. I worked at, where else did I work for a little bit? I don't think I had another. I think that was like the only application job I had. And then I did Uber Eats for a long time. Like I was actually making not the worst money in the world, just running around delivering food with Uber Eats and Postmates. So that's what I did for a while. My dog just farted and it stinks. I did that for a while, made whatever money I could, and then that one bill I had to pay, that car payment, it was getting tough with that stuff too. I was still doing YouTube on and off in between there. And I still had my donations open. I would still go back into it with the idea maybe I could bring back that hype, get some income from this too, and I can make life work out that way for a little bit. And I'd make a little bit of money here and there on YouTube, but it was never like those big bucks. I was making what felt like big bucks back in the heyday, the prime. Every now and then I'd have some crazy stream where I'd make like $100 in the stream, and I'd be like, it's coming back. But it was a very strong outlier. That was like once in a blue moon, always gave me false hope. And then eventually I got a job at Pizza Hut, and that job actually did all right for me because I was a delivery driver. I was getting tips. I was getting good hours. I was kind of like one of the top guys at that store after a while. So I had a little bit of flexibility and just choosing my shift and stuff. And I was doing opening and just putting away the like deliveries and stuff during COVID. I didn't really have to do anything crazy when the deliveries were crazy and the night rush was a nightmare every night. I was like, man, the tips would be good, but I don't really feel like dealing with it. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed working at Pizza Hut, but something happened with that, and I couldn't keep working there. And then I did YouTube again. I gave it like one last effort, and it was actually not going too bad. It was my closest I got to successfully bringing back like that YouTube stream hype, but I wasn't doing it for the right reasons, I was totally doing it for finances and not really for the love of the game. There still was love for the game, but it wasn't a focus and it wasn't something that I protected. So it was so easy for the love of the game to get lost on like, oh man, I need to make some money. I need to pay some bills. And from there, I had also reached out to my dad in this time and said, hey, dude, I didn't want to do this with my life, but I really need some money and I want to do something with myself. I was 23 at the time of talking to him, right? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I was 23 at the time of talking to him, and I'm like, "Hey dude, I don't want to fall further behind in life. I want to get a little bit ahead here. I want to make some money. Is there any way, that I could get into the industry and, start making some money?" And he said, "Hey, well, opportunities, the industry, I'll go into that in a second too, my job. It's actually the next thing on my list." But he says, let me see what I could do. And we don't really talk about it for like 6 months, other than like a few times here and there, me letting him know, hey, I still want to get in. And then I'm on stream in April of 2021, streaming some Pokemon thing or another. And my dad calls me and he's like, hey, you're gonna start tomorrow. And I just kind of like shell shocked. I'm like, whoa, really? And he's like, yeah, you're going to, be ready to wake up early, this and that. So I tell the stream, like, hey guys, you might not see quite as much of me here. I just got a crazy work opportunity. And next thing you know, I'm working in Hollywood. I'm working in the film business. And here I am almost 5 years later. And like, I own my own home. And I've owned my own home for almost 3 years. And it's crazy. It is nuts to think about how far I have come in life since that, not just financially, but like as a man, as a person. And that was that was truthfully the end of the YouTube gaming era, but I kept coming back and giving it a shot, and it was way too hard with how much I was working, and I had these crazy dreams cuz I work a lot of hours. I like my job, but I don't like the hours I do. And I had this crazy dream. I was going to free myself from Hollywood, from California mortgage money, by getting back on YouTube and making these high quality, these high production storytelling gaming videos, taking it a step higher than I ever have before. And I made some good ones. I'm not going to lie. But it was just so unsustainable. It became so stressful, and my heart really wasn't in the gaming thing anymore. It's just where I believed I had the most already developed skill and the most talent and the most like the best ideas, So I just kept going with it. I just kept going with it and trying it again. And it took a while to realize, man, I've outgrown gaming content in general, just altogether. I've outgrown a lot of what gaming is and being a gamer. I don't play a lot of new games. I don't keep up with the industry. I watch Nintendo Directs because I'm still a little bit of a Nintendo fanboy. And I played Expedition 33 because it had a massive amount of buzz. I can't tell you the last new game that wasn't from a franchise I was already invested in, other than Expedition 33 that I've played. I've grown out of it so much. I'm playing with this thing. I don't know why. I've grown out of gaming so freaking much, and it was just like, time to accept that. And there was a little weird period in there too that I'm going to give an honorable mention, where I was trying to make like Mr. Beast style content because I was just so focused, so obsessed with like, I want to make a ton of money and get out of Hollywood, because I was doing a really bad commute for a long time in this period. And I was like, I don't care how bad the commute is. I could make videos and escape this hell. No, making videos videos made it more of a hell. I was like in weird Mr. Beast hell, and I was in commuter hell. It was a nightmare. But anyways, one thing led to another. I tried all these different things. I tried coming back to gaming content and all these different types of content. And recently I've always wanted to do a podcast. Like, for most of my YouTuber life, I wanted to also do a podcast, and I've just never done one. I've just never done one because I have all these other things I'm focused on, and I'm like, "Oh, I wanna put the energy into this. I wanna put the energy into this. This has more potential. A podcast isn't gonna blow up and go anywhere." But then I came to the adult realization that I don't wanna do a podcast because I want it to blow up and make me a bunch of money. I wanna do a podcast because I think it'd be fun, because I think it would be the truest type of content I could create right now at the age of 28 and feel fulfilled making it. Like this kind of stuff and like funny little short stuff that just really I'm putting my own personality, myself, my heart and soul into, even if it's a total joke and it's not deep. I'm still putting a lot of myself into that. And it feels so much better than trying to force myself to make this really incredible content that might make me rich. It's, I'm good. I'm good in life. And I'd kind of rather make my living getting a career that's a little more safe and sound than like I got to keep doing all of this content creation and make all my money this way. If I ever run out of ideas, if I ever something happens to me and I don't upload for a while, that could be it. I don't have protections. The protections are me following the game, following the algorithm and outsmarting it enough to stay relevant and keep getting clicks and money. And I will never have a consistent income. I will never know how much I can safely spend. I'll live like I'm in poverty, even if I have a ton of money. And maybe that's for the best, but like, I don't know, dude. I don't want to commit my life to that. Even if this podcast and this little short content blows up, I don't want to commit my life to making it and being like, oh yeah, I'm a full-time content creator. That was a dream. Now, as an adult with a mortgage, it's like that's too risky for me. I like if I'm doing that and I'm really making a ton of money, maybe I don't go to work for a little bit because I do have a kind of sweet union position where I could do that. And maybe I just take some time off work and I try to start a business or something to make my money that way and I have more time for the content. Who knows? But I don't want to put all of my eggs in the content basket. And now I'm coming at this. Now we're getting to the now part of me on YouTube where I have completely retired from gaming content. Maybe I'll talk about video games on this channel and maybe I'll stream video games on my old channel if I'm bored and just feel like doing it because it'd be fun. With no intention of like, I'm going to blow up on this stream, baby. Like just doing it for the heck of it. And I'm just here for the heck. That's it. That's the statement, dude. I'm here for the heck of it. I'm starting this new chapter really fresh with a whole different mindset, with a lot more certainty of myself, knowing like, yeah, dude, even if this does blow up, it's not going to change my life. I'm not going to live my life differently. I'm not going to quit my job. And it would take a lot for any of that to happen, a lot more than is realistic on a podcast channel or, on a TikTok or an Instagram. And if it's supplemental income and I'm having a blast doing it, cool. Awesome, dude. That's funny. That's a funny story to tell people, and that's extra spending money in my pocket that makes life a little easier. And yeah, I'm just really I had all these big ideas for this channel coming into it. I had these ideas. Oh, I'm gonna do these little like 20-minute or less HD in front of my HD camera where I talk and I have these ideas and I'm gonna do this twice a week or something. I had all these schedules in mind. I had all this structure. And I was like, it's gonna help me structure my life too. And now I'm like, no, it's not. It's gonna help you distract yourself from structuring your life and obsessing over this YouTube thing. Because when you have that much structure and a schedule you're following, like it becomes a job, and jobs are to make money. And this isn't to make money. This is to be a hobby and to have fun. And I still want to do it as well as I can. You see my setup here. I'm a little bougie with my equipment, and I always have been. And I want to make high quality stuff whenever I can and just be I want to be proud of the content I'm putting out, but I don't want to be proud of it because I'm like, oh, yeah, that's going to make me some money. And I'm proud of the fact that I see it contending with the others that make money. I want to be like, man, I'm just proud of how that came out. I'm proud of that. That looks nice. That looks nice. Good job, Cody. I look nice. I like that. I like that for me. So I could rewatch it and enjoy it because I rewatch a bunch of my content. I don't know if I'm narcissistic for that, self-centered. I don't know. But I have a way of just rewatching my stuff once I've posted it, and I'm just like, yeah, Nice. I love making content, dude. I love it. I always have. I love just being a creator for the sake of I created something, and I want to tap back into that and really like be mindful of that love I've always had but just didn't really process or think of. And that's where I'm at now on YouTube, man. So whatever comes. Um my only kind of goal is I want to do a podcast a week, and that's so doable. So freaking doable for me, and it gives me an excuse to have friends over and to talk with my friends more and just have a blast, you know? But anyways, I did say, I'm gonna skip over that point. You know what? I'll mention it real quick. I wrote down on my very few notes here that challenges are opportunities to grow. And what I meant with that is that, I have been met with many challenges in the past year in 2025, just over my YouTube, the course of YouTube, and just being me over the course of my life. Everybody is met with challenges. And the best way to look at those challenges, they're still going to be challenging. I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't think about enough. When you look at a challenge as an opportunity to grow, you shouldn't stop looking at it as a challenge as well. Don't dwell on it being very challenging, but don't try to lie to yourself and say this isn't a challenge at all. It is nothing but an opportunity to grow, because both things can coexist. And that is the only point I wanted to make there. I thought I was going to talk about that more, and maybe I can a very little bit just to elaborate and like make it a little, give an example maybe. Um, but say you're hit with a sudden surprise expense and you've been spending a little bit more than you've been comfortable with, but you've just been doing it because you've been having a good time. You have a spending problem, whatever it might be, and you're hit with like some surprise bill, and it creates a financial hardship on you where maybe you got to go into debt, maybe you got to sell something, whatever it might be. Yeah, that's an opportunity to grow and become better at budgeting or whatever it might be, better with your money. But at the same time, don't ignore that like your life is now going to be different in some capacity. You're going to have to adjust your life, and it's not going to be in like a fun way. Having to save money doesn't typically make life more fun or more pleasant, or less stressful. And all those things still exist while you do have that opportunity to avoid that challenge in the future, if that makes somewhat a sense, or to get through that challenge in the future more peacefully, more preparedly, in some instances as well. But yeah, let's talk about AI and Hollywood. Hollywood in general, not just AI, like the AI side of how that affects Hollywood, but AI in general, dude, it's getting too good. I'm trying to pretty much um like hit not interested on every bit of AI content that comes my way. If it's a fully AI committed Instagram account or YouTube channel, I'll just block it. I'll get it out of my vision. I don't want to see it. I don't want AI content. Dude, I love watching something and laughing knowing, "Hey, that's pretty freaking funny." And knowing it's like I'm laughing at a joke somebody else made, but when it comes to this AI stuff where somebody like typed in this prompt and then you get this really crazy looking video of a lady riding a pig down the street holding a Christmas tree, and then another lady on a shopping cart. Like, even when it is funny, I'm not going to sit here and act like I am immune to laughing at AI generated content, because a lot of that stuff is comical, but it's also stupid. Like, there's so many jokes humans have yet to make and will always have yet to make, that like why are we just so easily like, oh yeah, AI it's a thing that's here now, it's what we have, it's what we use and what we like so many people are not even like, at first they would, oh, AI. Less and less people care if content is AI these days. They'll watch it, they'll comment as if it's totally factual, like, oh, this really happened. There's a little floaty there. They'll comment as if like, oh my gosh, this, that, the other. They'll get rage baited by AI and treat it like it's a real situation. And sometimes I got to be honest, it's getting increasingly harder to tell, but there's still signs and you should be skeptical. But if you enjoy AI content, power to you. I don't. I don't like AI. I think AI has some really good uses, and sometimes we see it. Um, I've seen it in video editing software be a really good thing. I just saw this AI app where you get to take a video and you walk around a job site or whatever. And while you're walking around looking at stuff with the camera, you're making verbal notes, and then it creates like a document page with pictures, and it pretty much summarizes your notes. You can make your edits, but it gives you an incredible starting place if that's something you got to do for work or something you just want to do for your own records. It gives you an incredible, very neat document of everything you just went over. And that's like AI doing something good, because you're not going to hire somebody else to, hey, can you come and take pictures and write down these notes while I talk about this? You're just going to write that stuff down and make that document yourself. And it's going to take like an hour to make this document, where this app, you've done it in the time it took you to take the video, and walk around the job site. So sometimes I'm not a total AI hater. I think AI tools are very cool, but when like the AI is basically just here to like, oh, hey, make content for me. Make this prompt into an actual piece of content that I don't have to put any effort into making. I don't like that. I don't like that. And like Chat GPT, um, the regular large, what are they called? LLMs, large language models, something like that. Um, those are, I don't have as big of a problem, or as big of a dislike, I should say, of those as I do things like Sora 2, the program that's making all of these incredibly hard to distinguish from reality AI videos. But still, I'd rather live an AI free life. I'd rather see AI implemented into things that I need anyways as tools, and stop seeing it so needlessly implemented into everything. Um, Obviously, some things are just AI, like ChatGPT and Sora. Those are just AI programs. But with all these other programs now trying to add like AI assistants, or oh, with our new AI powered this or AI powered that, it's just I'm a little, it's not as sick as all these companies forcing it into their products make you believe. But Hollywood, anyways, is definitely affected by AI. They already have this. I see it all the time. This vehicle thing, this booth. It's called Scanny DeVito, which is hilarious, but you can imagine what it is. It's a booth where they have these people come in. They do these 3D scans of these background actors or whoever they're scanning, and then they go on their way. And most of the time, those people are signing away that they are going to just be digital replicas for like green screen backgrounds or whatever. Um, AI is coming, dude, and it's coming swiftly. Right now, I think the really only profession affected by it is going to be background actors, because it's just, I think editors have a lot of union protections over the other stuff that AI would be able to currently do for the business. And I think editors would be the ones having to use the AI. So instead of like hiring some cheap AI guy, you're still hiring these people, and maybe they hire less editors to work in the editing room, but it's more so in the hands of the editors, which I can appreciate. But who knows? Who knows what that actually looks like in practice when it comes down to it. But right now, AI is already heavily affecting background actors. I know that SAG went on strike and they got certain protections in place, but I don't think, if I am correct, anything stops a production from hiring background actors that refuse to agree to getting scanned. I don't think anything stops them from just saying, "Oh, you know what? You don't actually fit what we're looking for." You know? or you know what, that is a condition of this job, and we're going to have to seek out another candidate. Like, I don't know. I know they secured some protections, and I was more aware of it at the time, but I still see this scanning going on. And I remember at the time, like, there was a lot of loopholes. People were like, I don't know if this is actually protections for everybody the way that it was supposed to be here. So AI, you know, there's a chance that everything goes AI and they just get agreements from all these A-list actors to, like, hey, let us AI generate you. And they will probably make the same amount of money. The A-list actors, they'll say, hey, we're not going to let you pay us less, but sure, AI generate us and let our team review everything and make sure we're okay with it. And then they save money on not having to hire anybody else but their AI editors or whatever. I don't know. That's like the world that I think a lot of people are afraid of coming. A totally 100% AI produced content. And a lot of people, a lot of big names are like confidently saying with their chest, oh, yeah, this is coming for sure. We can't avoid it. This is inevitable. And, I don't know if I kind of feel like a lot of producers that actually like Hollywood and the Hollywood culture and A-list actors are going to protect us from that being the full future of Hollywood and film for a little bit. And if we ever get to a point where we are happy going to theaters and paying for Netflix or whatever we're doing to watch AI generated content and like purely 100% AI generated content, we got bigger, oh man, we got bigger problems than me not having a job, if I may be honest. Um, I'm scared of it because I'll have to figure something else out to do. But man, if we really just sit here and accept this AI wave of content, of art, like, AI could do my laundry all day long. I would love an AI laundry hamper where I fill it up with my laundry and it knows because it's monitoring my drawers. It knows when I need my drawers, And it's like, oh man, you are running low on underwear. It is time to throw this laundry in the load. And then the hamper walks over to the washing machine and loads up the washing machine. I would love that. I would freaking love that. Give me AI for that all day long. I will let my hamper be a part of the robot uprising against me. I will gladly accept that fate because it actually provides me something and does something that I don't want to do. But instead, AI has been optimized for arts, for video and image production before anything, it feels like. And it's unfortunate because artists don't want it. Artists don't want AI to make their art for them. So you haven't provided a tool for people to do what they already wanted to do better. You provided a tool for the talentless to be able to compete with the talented using a machine that has trained itself off of what they have decided to share with the internet. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of ironic. And I just, AI artists are, especially when they start getting like defensive, it's cute. It's real cute. I don't like to be a dick. I don't like to put people down. But to be an AI like prompt writing artist, and get really defensive when people kind of call you out for it. I don't care if you're writing 11-page prompts and you work really hard to get results out of your AI video production that is very passable for reality. Like, do what you're gonna do, but to defend it against like making real art, like you're doing something that's difficult. No, you cracked a code on how to tell a machine to do this. Like, there's a talent, I guess, in getting AI to do exactly what you want it to do, to knowing how to cut through everything that it's been taught to get it to do what you're trying to teach it above its programming. I guess there's a beauty to that. There's a talent, a skill to that. But why then make it like, why not do other incredible things with it? You know, like, why not find in crazy mathematical formulas that the world might need? I don't know. Now I'm getting into stuff I don't understand, but I think my point has been pretty clear about that. And you know, once again, I don't want to put anybody down. So AI artists, if you're feeling emotional that I said what I said, I'm sorry. But if you are defending that as being like hard work in response to people saying like, man, you know, like anything about like real artists deserve more credit than to have this take over social media is basically kind of how it goes. And I don't know, dude. I don't want to put no one down, but you're putting the real artists down and their real talent. You're treating it like it doesn't matter because you're treating your prompts like that's what real talent is. I hate to break it to you, dude. Getting on like it's a lot easier to figure out how to manipulate this program into listening to you in the exact way you want than like actually developing the skill to do art. You know, like you have to practice to do art. You can kind of find your cheat codes online to use your AI prompts and have a incredible headset. Anyways, that is one thing about this channel that you guys will all see. I'm pretty much an AI hater. There's parts of AI, once again, that I will be totally upfront about. Like, I do like being able to ask ChatGPT questions on my phone because it's better than Siri. Siri doesn't answer questions for me. ChatGPT is usually pretty good at answering those questions for me. And I do have the Meta glasses primarily for the purpose of the cameras. That is why I asked for them for Christmas, and my sister, bless her soul, got me them. And I like them, dude, because I could live in the moment and record things at the same time. It's kind of like the complete opposite effect of what technology has done to humans, where it has taken us out of the moment. These help me stay in the moment, and I love them for it. And I could sell almost anybody on these after one really fun New Year's party having these on me, passing them to friends for them to wear and record. And I was wearing them and recording. Like, they're fun. They're a great time. They're a great time, and you can get some great memories out of them without having to stare into your phone screen while living the memory, you know? So, and I'll ask those too when I have them on. I'll ask them questions about the same stuff I'll ask ChatGPT, really, because it has Meta in there. I think that works. I think I've done that. And like I said, there's certain uses I think it's actually a benefit and a positive, and I don't deny myself those uses, but I really do try to limit my consumption to those. I don't even like watching AI content. I don't like Sora. I think it's stupid. I think it's pointless. I think it makes some really funny stuff sometimes, and I wish we could stick to just like sometimes, but becomes a public tool. Everybody gets access to it, dude. It just becomes too oversaturating and annoying. But that's my take on I really talked about AI a lot more in Hollywood. Hollywood's in a rough spot right now. I think I'm gonna save that for a little bit of another time because there's so much to talk about Hollywood, and I don't want to start going like too doom and gloom. And I work in Hollywood, and I can get a little doom and gloom when I start talking about some of my concerns. But right now, I do have some positive thoughts and some optimism surrounding Hollywood. This year's looking good with those new tax incentives that we recently passed. And, you know, like I said, I don't think AI is going to take us out too soon. And really, dude, I just want to get as far as I can in Hollywood and like spend that time kind of just seeing what else I could do. You know, I don't want it to end too soon, so I have time to find out what I'm going to end up doing next if I need to find another plan. Or maybe I get lucky and I actually get a career all the way to retirement through Hollywood. I'm like the one guy who makes it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But the future of Hollywood is a little bit uncertain. Money is a big part of that. AI, as I just talked about, is a big part of that. And I don't know what's going on in California, dude. California's too damn expensive. Yeah, we're trying to make it more affordable to make movies and stuff here again, but we got to do something about like lumber prices and the price of like real estate, because I can't imagine a soundstage in California doesn't cost double that of a similarly sized soundstage in, like, say, Texas or Atlanta. So there's stuff we got to figure out in California and in LA County, if we're really going to bring longevity to Hollywood and just to the people of California. I mean, come on. This is going to get California gets harder and harder to survive in every day. Eventually, it's going to get to a point where it's just not going to work out. I don't know when we get to that point, but I'm scared. I'm scared, man. I'm not scared to the point of losing sleep. I don't like it. I don't like the trajectory, my friend. But that's Hollywood, baby. That's showbiz, baby. Next, ladies and gentlemen, the next subject. I know I'm looking at this notepad a little bit here, but I'm only looking at it to get started on these topics. All right. We're going to talk about digital human nature, which is a phrase that I coined right before this podcast. I wrote it down. I was like, I think this is going to be a good way to talk about this. Digital human nature. What do I mean by that? I mean, we all know what I mean when I say human nature. It's the way that we get jealous of certain things consistently. It's the way that we are selfish naturally. It is the way that humans cannot help but get addicted to certain things, such as drama and gossip. Humans are suckers for it. We will chase it down. We will gossip all day and all night. And not all of us, but enough of us that it is like, look at social media. Look at X and look at Instagram. It's basically just a giant gossip drama pool. Not Instagram. I meant to say Threads. But it's just a big, it's just a lot of drama. It's not really, sometimes I guess it's not drama. It's other stuff, but it is in common human nature to be, I think, certain ways when they interact on the internet, the same way it is in common human nature to feed into drama, to be defensive in certain situations. There's a reason in therapy they have a lot of techniques that are across the board advised and taught early on in most forms of therapy. And there's a reason a lot of people actually talk about those and stick with those and understand those, because it's real, man. Human nature exists. Human nature exists, and none of us are better than it. Some of us can get a better grip on it, sure, but nobody is above instinct. And we have instincts, and they're weird instincts because no other species on Earth can communicate or think in the way we do. Nobody else has this level of autonomy over their life and their bodies and their thoughts. And it makes human nature a lot harder to understand in its fullness than, say, animal instinct and animal nature. And I don't think human nature is as consistent as animal instinct, but it exists. And when I talk about digital human nature, I think the internet and technology has been around long enough now for us to see that humans do have a natural nature, a natural tendency when introduced to the systems we've built. Social media, totally man-built. We've seen it man-built in our lifetime. If you're an adult, you've pretty much seen the rise of social media in your lifetime. And with that, these days, I think it is a fact that more people are on social media than are not. And with more people on social media than not on social media, you're going to see some consistencies, huh? Okay, this is a brand new thing to the world here. The internet, social media, this level of connection. How are humans naturally gonna kind of lean when they start using this? What are their tendencies gonna fall towards? And we're seeing now in the day and age what that is. I don't even really have to say it. If you're online, you see that there's a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing. I think digital human nature is negative, personally. I think the most seen digital human nature is negative. I think humans introduced to the internet and to social media, I think it brings out a worse side in us rather than encouraging us to do better and to become better. It gives us all the tools to become better. You could get a lot more knowledge. You can get a lot more wisdom about pretty much anything. You can get therapeutic techniques. You can get, um, you can learn about yourself. You can learn about other people and maybe learn about yourself in that process. You could acquire endless knowledge. You could learn almost anything on the internet. Google is an endless ocean of information. But at the end of the day, in 2026, most people that are on the internet don't spend their time bettering themselves or hiring their knowledge or doing anything that is really for their own benefit. They spend time scrolling social media, whether they be laughing, whether they be getting fired up and shooting off tweet after tweet about how mad they are at some politician or person or whatever. It's what you see happening so often when you talk to people in the real world. You talk about doom scrolling a lot more than you talk about like the same thing, but positively. There's that app I keep getting advertised where it's like, hey, instead of doom scrolling, scroll this app and you'll learn things. You're going to get like knowledge. You're going to get information. You're going to get facts instead of Tweedledee, Tweedledum, I'm going to sit on my thumb. Like you're going to get some good stuff. You're going to get some stuff that's actually going to stimulate your brain, going to make you think, going to activate your freaking thinking power instead of all this brain numbing, mindless content that we all so often get in the trap of scrolling through online, and that's kind of my biggest point with talking about digital human nature is I think the internet's been a bad thing for human nature, for human lifestyles and humanity. I don't think it offers us nothing. I think there is a couple mountains of positive benefit that comes from the internet existing and technology being as advanced as it is in this day and age. But when it comes to like the way we treat each other, the way our societies are, like, I guess you could say how they flourish amongst themselves, not really counting like economies and stuff like that. I just think I think a big part of why the world is more negative today than the world you hear about from the past, minus like, racism and crazy stuff like that, because that is stuff to be considered. I think the reason the world's so freaking crazy now and everybody has so little trust in each other compared to once upon a time, all the stories we hear, it's because we just see so much negative on the internet. We see the worst side of each other. We're having all this depersonalized communication where it doesn't really feel like you're talking to a human, even though you are. It feels like you're talking to a robot, to a screen, to something that doesn't have emotions because they can't cry in your face. They can't scream in your face. They can't put their finger in your face. They can't do none of that. And I think it's just now we're so many years deep into this thing. We're like 2 decades about deep into this social media life that we just see it more and more every day. We just have progressively gained, or I guess we have progressively learned to trust each other less because of what we see online. And it's a subconscious thing. I believe. I truly believe that. I don't think anybody is going out into the world intentionally trying to be more skeptical of it. Some people, sure, they see stuff online, they get paranoid. I just think it's what's naturally going to happen with how the internet makes the world look and makes people look. Moving on. Being 28 and a homeowner. There's a lot I could say about that, but there's also, I could keep that very simple and sweet. I'm 28. I've been a homeowner since I was 26. Mortgages are expensive. You will change a lot to maintain being a homeowner, I have learned. The concept of whatever it takes becomes a lot more real in your life because you're like, crap, man, I'm not making money right now and I need to make some money. What can I do? Because I had a pretty scary spot like 7 months after buying the house with just work situation stuff and Hollywood strike stuff going on. So, yeah, I mean, I'm in a spot that is still not comfortable because of where I work, I think, and I know that like my career could disappear. I might have to readjust the trajectory of my life at any point, and I might have to be okay with letting this place go to financially benefit myself and not hold on to it till a point where I can't bounce back. You know, being a homeowner will change everything about the way you interface with the world when you just have a lot more responsibility. It's kind of like being a parent, but not being a parent, a soft core version of being a parent, because I do have a responsibility to this home to take care of my home, to not leave it a pigsty. This desk right now, you can't see it. My desk is horrendous and it's driving me nuts and I got to clean it up. But, um, yeah, it's I have a lot of responsibilities to keep bringing the money in to make sure this can remain my home and to take care of the home. I got to do homeowner activities and repairs and all of that. And it really just has, getting a job that was paying me as well as my job pays me and being able to see this future for myself that I'm now kind of living. That was enough to push me in a in a good direction, in a good direction with my life and kind of help me start growing up rapidly and seeing a lot of things a lot more realistically. That was the biggest thing is I got a lot more real and a lot less like I stopped dreaming of how life could be and it's like this is how life is and it's pretty damn sweet and I should work hard to maintain this. Because I know a lot of people that would kill for this and it might not be my dream life from a couple years ago. It's still a dream. It's still a dream life. It's just not my original dream life. This is still pretty sweet, and I am very, very grateful. And yeah, man, there's a lot of pressure that comes with being a homeowner. There's definitely a lot of anxiety and stress that has been added to my life as a result. And right now, I would, I can't say too much, but I am in a situation where being a homeowner is incredibly stressful because I am kind of looking at certain factors in life where, I'm a little bit past it now, but there was about a week there where I was looking at things and I was having a difficult time coping with the fact that I was seeing a path in my near future where like losing my home wasn't a complete impossibility. Like where I could do everything right, everything right to prepare for what might be to come. And even if I do everything right, I still might end up, having to part with this place. And I had a difficult time um, accepting that. And it was a really kind of humbling experience because I was like, man, what a blessing it is to, even though I am extremely stressed out about this and I cannot deny that fact to myself, it doesn't matter though. Like, it does, but at the same time, I'm stressed out because I might go back to being just a little bit ahead of people that might be, of people my age instead of like right now where I'm a lot a bit ahead. And that's not to say if you're my age and you're looking at me, don't feel like you're behind. That's why I say I am ahead. The world is a tough place, is a very, very, very tough place to make it. And I understand, that I was born into a very privileged spot, really, just with who my family is and the industry that my family has worked for to be in the position I'm in now. Because, I try not to deny, yeah, I do work hard. I've earned my stay and I keep it going and I don't work with family now. I've built a spot on a crew that is not part of my family. But if it wasn't for my family having set that groundwork and having done that themselves before me, I probably wouldn't be in the business right now. I wouldn't be in this house. I wouldn't be where I'm at all. So don't feel like you're behind. Understand that I am ahead. And anybody else our age in their 20s, period, that owns a home that has like a lot going for them, they are more than likely in their area, in their career, whatever. they're probably ahead of the game. They're probably ahead of the game and you're not behind. You know, just keep pushing. You got to be looking for it. You got to be finding that opportunity and putting in that work, whether it be just taking advantage of what's in front of you or reaching out to people that do have opportunities that you've seen, and just, closed mouths don't get fed. Don't be afraid to ask people for jobs if they're doing well in life, and just saying, hey, I'm committed and I want to do better for my life and I'll do whatever I got to do to make that happen. That's the kind of stuff that gets people jobs, believe it or not. Um, but you're not behind. I am ahead. I am ahead. So, a little bit more about what I was talking about earlier, that 8 years later after Adderall, I am still having some issues, I think. And I am trying now to see life through a simpler lens. I have a way of catastrophizing things, of making things, even if I'm not catastrophizing it, I'll make it into a big deal. I'll do these like elaborate 10-step plans and these giant Venn diagrams. I'll do whatever I got to do to make something feel well thought out and planned and sound and like, oh yeah, dude, see this is structure. This is how we need it. And I've looked at a lot of problems in life as more complex than they are and have tried to implement more complex than necessary solutions. And I think all of that really does kind of root back to me being on Adderall every day. And the early days of that Adderall, it was just totally stimulant. I already have ADHD and it didn't really mellow me out. People say, oh, yeah, it mellows me at my ADHD out. It makes me feel more focused and on task and more, calm minded and more less all over the place. And me, I'm like, I don't fucking understand that for a second. I was full of juice, full of energy. Whoa! Let's go. I was a little more focused. It was easier to keep a straight train of thoughts, but I was like jumping off the walls. My eyes were all big. I was talking a mile a minute, and I felt like I looked so fucking cool. And I didn't. I didn't look cool at all, man. I looked stupid. I had so many people tell me how crazy I looked, and I was getting all sorts of crazy looks, and I started building a reputation for always being on that stuff. And that hurt. That hurt. When somebody that I never, ever, ever really spoke to, minus like once years ago, saw me and like, oh yeah, aren't you like always on Adderall? I was like, whoa, what the? And it was just, yeah, it did a lot. It did a lot of craziness to me. And it also, I think, created a lot of my issues that I've kept with like self-love and things like that. I just think I've overcomplicated a lot of life and been really intimidated at tackling these things and trying to have a solution, trying to find a solution, work on a solution, develop a solution. And I think that's like kind of a residual effect from Adderall. As crazy as that is, I think it just really got me in that mindset of, like, oh dude, life is so complicated. These things are so hard. It's so hard to wrap my head around all this and find my grounding of where I am and have an understanding. And like recently I'm really trying to break all of that and just look at life as like, yo, life is pretty dang simple. This is what's going on and that's all there is to it. And when other things pop up, another thing has popped up. Doesn't mean, like, I don't want to let life scare me anymore because I never have a reason to be scared. I always get through everything just fine. Things just overwhelm me and they scare me sometimes. And I'm going to work on, I'm working on getting past that, trying to just see life simpler because simple is easier to understand. And what we understand does not cause us fear nearly as much. But yeah, man, I wrote down a few extra notes here for the end of this thing earlier today. And the first one was I want to talk about, like, I guess my current predictions for myself this year. And to be honest with you, I had stuff in mind then that I don't really I don't really know because originally this podcast was going to be like this big like self-improvement project where I was going to be tracking my progress through the podcast and stuff like that. And then to go along with my last point, I wanted to see it a lot simpler and just say, "No, dude, I'm just going to have a podcast and have fun." And I really don't need to put that much more work in on myself as I'm pretending I need to. Like, who I am is fine now. I just have some motivation issues and some procrastination issues, and that's what I should talk to my therapist about. I don't have to talk about, like, life is hard. Life isn't hard. I'm just looking for a little bit of guidance and direction. That's really all I need at this point in life right now is guidance and direction, and once I get a little bit of that, I'll be better at giving that to myself. Like I'm there's some skills I still want to learn to make me feel better about my life and to feel like maybe I can accomplish more in my life, even with limited time, and feel more like I am having more fulfilling moments, in my life in general. Yeah, plenty of stuff I always am gonna want to work on. I'm always gonna want to make life better, but at the same time, it's I don't need to make a big deal out of any of that. It just is what it is. I work on one thing at a time, and I stop looking at it as like this grand step-by-step journey. It's like an open world game. It's not a story-driven linear game. It's an open world game. I could walk over to the other section and work on that section for a little bit, and then I can come back to the I just got to go where I go. Just let myself flow, you know? But I just got to go where I go and let myself flow like water. And I guess my predictions for 2026 for myself with that in mind would be you know, a podcast a week. I think I will hit that target. I really want to hit that target. And I hope that I'm still doing this at the end of the year. We're very early. We're pretty much still beginning of January. We're January 9th is the date of this recording. And I would, end of the year, still have a home, still be paying a mortgage, still be working. I'd like to work as much as possible this year. Once I get back to work, right now I am out of work and recovering. I am in recovery. But I see I just I'm gonna predict 2026, a pretty vague prediction, I guess, but it's gonna be a bright one, dude. Even if it is dark, even if it is hard, because there is going to be hard times. There has already been hard times. It's gonna be a good one, dude. I'm going to grow. I'm gonna blossom. I am going to flourish, and great things are gonna come my way. I'm gonna let them come my way. I'm not gonna deny myself of any experience. And I just, I don't really want to say, oh, 2026 is gonna be my year. But 2026 is kind of like my first year on earth as who I am today. It's a whole new introductory to life as the man I have become over the course of 2025, because 2025 broke me down and built me back up a whole new person, man. A better person, a stronger person, a person capable of being who he was before he broke, but with confidence and courage. And, nobody's really going to come in here and break me anymore. I am made of steel now. I have redeveloped steel skin because I love myself more than I ever have. And I am now getting to walk this earth as somebody with a massive love of himself, somebody who respects himself enough to be looking out for what's in my best interest at pretty much all times. Like, what can I do to love myself just in everyday life? And I predict 2026 will be a big year for me just because it's my first year living that way. And I hope to maintain that and really by the end of this year look back and say, wow, wow, it makes sense why that would make life feel so much bigger, grander, more special, and even more worth living. But wow, that's kind of what I expect. Because even now, talking about that moment, I'm sure I'm underestimating how great life can feel when you just get out there and experience and you don't hold back and you have fun and you live freely and you don't overthink about this, that, or whatever. You just go out there and you let your impulse run wild to a healthy degree. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I see in my 2026. Um, but yeah, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Go ahead and wrap this up with 3 little tidbits of information for future episodes. So, as I said earlier, I want as many episodes of this podcast as possible to have guests. If I ever want to do some solo ranting, I could do that without calling it a podcast. I could do it for a shorter form thing, or I could just have 2 podcasts in a week if I feel like rambling. Who cares? I want to have 1 podcast with a guest a week. Do I think I will hit that target? Not every week. Absolutely not. I'm sure there will be times where I don't have a guest for a while, and that's okay. But that is my goal. So if you guys know me in person and you have somebody you'd like me to have on as a guest, let me know. If you would like to be on as a guest, let me know. I don't want to be extremely picky, but I'm going to be picky enough. I want to make sure I could see myself having an actual conversation that I will find value in with this person. Before I just like some random person that I've talked to once in life is like, hey, guy, come on your podcast, dude. And I know nothing about them. I might not message you back. I might not hit you back up like, oh, yeah, let's do it. But even if we've never spoken, if you hit me up and you got something you want to talk about, you got like a background you'd like to discuss on my show, let me know. I'd love it. I'd love it. That kind of thing is what I'm trying to do here. Have some really fun, exciting conversations more than just small talk. And some people I could do that with every day, all day. Some people I don't know. And we got to find out, and not to say everything has to be exciting and that every now and then small talk will come up. But for the most part, I want to have that like we're both coming to this table here today to talk about something that we might not talk about in our everyday life. Another thing is, in note with that this podcast does not need to happen in this room. Yeah, this room, I got nice mic. I got nice sound. You could hear me here. And I also got the second mic. I got 2 mics in this room. I am ready to be a podcaster. I have been ready to be a podcaster. And I I got two mics. So the podcast could definitely happen in here. This is going to be the main home of the podcast, and this whole room's going to evolve over time to kind of match that, be more of the vibe of a podcast. But also, sorry, girl, we're going to get your food in just a second. The dog's eager for dinner. I've gone a little over my time on this. I thought I'd be quicker. I could do this thing mobile. I got a camera. I got a nice camera. I got GoPros. We got cell phones. I got lav mics. I don't need to take these mics, but these mics are like I could bring a laptop, plug these in, and we got audio right there on site. This is a mobile podcast. This podcast doesn't only exist in this room. The Mac Attack isn't about where the podcast is recorded. The Mac Attack is about the Mac, baby. As long as I'm there, as long as Cody Mack's on the scene, we got the Mac Attack. All right? So that's something I'm excited for. I want to do podcasts in the middle of the woods. I want to do podcasts in the most random of spots, dude. Just because I can. Just because I can from time to time. And sometimes it'll be like, hey, I want somebody on my show, but they can't make it to me, and I can make it to them. All right, boom. I'm packing up the car. I got the laptop. I got the gear. I'm coming in. We're setting up. We're going to do a podcast wherever you're at. Boom. So that's another thing. And then the most exciting, absolute most important thing you will learn from this podcast today. If you remember anything, remember this. This little device right here that I don't know if you can see that. See all those buttons? It's kind of super dirty. Ew, gross. I'm sorry I showed you that. That right there, That's the soundboard, baby. I'ma load that thing up with noises so that I could be sitting here and annoying the crap out of you with my little bang, 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 whatever I put on there, dude. I just want to put some funny noises. I want a soundboard. I think it'll be great. Best part of the show, definitely. Absolutely. What are my predictions for 2026? A podcast with a soundboard, baby. Anyways, guys, that's it. Thank you very much for coming and listening or watching, depending on where you're at, to this first episode of the Mac Attack. I'm very excited for this project. Depending on where you are watching or listening to this at, I do want to let you know that I plan on having this available pretty much at all of the main podcast distribution sources. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I don't know if Audible has podcasts, but we're going to find out, baby. Uh, and then on top of that, we're also on YouTube. You'll have the video form on YouTube with my camera. So when I was talking about, in this room, none of that matters if you're not on YouTube. And I totally forgot about that in the moment. But this will be a podcast first and foremost, not a video podcast, not a vodcast, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, and then you can follow me on at YouTube. You can find me at Cody Mac the Mac Attack. You can find me on Instagram at Cody Mac Attack, and the same thing on TikTok, but instead of a K at the end of attack, it's a 2 C's. And that's where you'll find anything related to this podcast and this project and any of my short form little stuff. And that's really it. That's where I'm at content creator wise right now. I'm making this podcast and I'm making TikToks and Instagram reels and YouTube shorts, and I'm posting them to all 3 platforms. Screw it. But that's it, baby. Thank you guys all very much. I do appreciate it. I hope you have enjoyed, and we will see you next week on the Mac Attack. Bum, 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 bum. I gotta have like an outro sound. I gotta do something like that. Yeah. Because right now I don't know how to. I'm trying to make this cool, and it's just lame. It's so cringe, and I know it. What the